Yes, your boy Crypto Blood, and welcome to another Kicking It session. Today I got my man Rice Crypto. I was on his channel first, now he's on mine. We're doing a home to home or back to back, whatever you want to call it. My man Rice, what's good, brother? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you having me on the Crypto Blood show, man. I really appreciate you having me back on. We did that collaboration before, and I always like to get up with other people who do content who are in a similar mindset and like-minded person like myself. You know, it makes for good dialogue. So
absolutely. And you know, I normally don't have an outline or anything. We just kind of get on, talk about the latest in crypto and non-crypto as well. I mean, we've got a lot of things going on. I don't know your stance on, you know, your political stance or whatnot, but a lot of things could possibly affect crypto, good or bad. So maybe we can talk about that. But for the audience, because it's been a while since I was on your show, but I rebroadcasted it on mine. Kind of tell the audience a little bit about yourself, Rice, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, my name is Chris Rice Crypto. Everybody calls me Rice. I'm a content creator. I'm an entrepreneur. I am an anarchist. That's kind of my political views. I'm a voluntarist and a defender of decentralization and a practitioner of change. Practice change is something that's kind of the heart of my message of everything that I create, where I encourage people to be the change that they want to see in this world. I feel like we're talking about changing the world with these technologies like blockchain and cryptocurrencies and other different disruptive technologies. But we need to change who we are as human beings as well, or we're just going to keep having the same problem. So I think it's time for not only a real revolution, but an evolution revolution. So I try to wake people up. And in addition to the stuff I mentioned, I do talk a lot about economics. So I definitely would enjoy talking with you about what's going on, because I think it's really important for people to be aware of the current global economic climate and what's happening, so that at least people can have an understanding and try to prepare for things the right and correct way.
Right. Explain what an anarchist and voluntarist, if I'm saying that correctly. What does that mean? What does that stand for?
Okay.
Kind of give us some of the...
Yeah. So the word anarchy has been kind of misused by our media and by our education system.
Of course, like everything.
Right. So they kind of make the word sound like it means something bad. But from the two Greek words that it comes from, which is and I'm not sure if this is a plural noun. I'm not big on my English and what certain parts mean. But the definition of an is no or without. And the second part of the word from the Greek is archon, which means master or ruler. So basically the definition is no ruler, no master. I'm a self-sovereign individual. I don't believe that the governance system that we have in effect right now is what our founding fathers fought long and hard for. So I try to represent the anarchist element, try to wake people up as to what anarchy actually is. And it coincides with voluntarism. And voluntarism is basically the idea that I don't want to force or be forced in anything that I don't want. Meaning that I'm not going to force things upon you and you're not going to force things upon me. And the old American saying, don't tread on me, is kind of a good emphasis for explaining voluntarism. And it also talks about the non-aggressive principle, which is just basically there's no point in anybody being violent towards one another. The only way somebody should have that type of aggression is if they're in self-defense because somebody's attacking them. But I believe that we should live in a world where we're free of coercion, free of force, free to do what we would like to do, as long as the things that we do don't affect everybody else as a whole. If your actions aren't really hurting anybody else, then you should be free to do what you want to do, whether or not somebody agrees or disagrees with it.
I mean, I feel you on that, and I agree that those are great principles, but do you think that's ever going to be something we can achieve? I talked to my man Hotep Jesus. I had him on, and we talked about free markets, and you know, we both came to the conclusion, like, man, look, I don't think free markets is something we've first ever seen, and secondly ever will be able to achieve. Are those principles that you align with something that you think we'll ever be able to achieve?
I do think that humanity will be able to achieve these things. Will it be in my lifetime? I don't know.
Okay.
But the reason why I promote this is because I feel like we need to plant seeds in the younger generation of people that are coming, that are being born now, that are coming up. I think people need to learn about these things because our education system and our media doesn't really try to teach people things the correct way. So I feel like if I can plant a seed for the future, do I believe that we can live in a world without governance today? Absolutely not. People are not
Okay.
ready for it. Just
Right.
like I say about cryptocurrencies, people in the United States and established nations, like in European nations, they don't need cryptocurrency like people in South Africa or in Africa or South America, where
Right.
where they're not have access to banks. So here in the United States, people aren't ready to be their own banker. And in the world, people aren't ready to govern themselves. But
But
if we,
that's a
sorry,
double-edged sword, man, because I agree with you. Here in America, or let's just say Western civilizations, they don't really need crypto, right? I mean, when I mean
not the way that these
not the
other
way that,
nations need it.
right, right. We need it, but most of us don't even know we need it. But that's a whole nother
To
subject.
get away from fiat money is definitely the key.
Yeah, that's the key. However, because we're in a situation where it's not a necessity right now, it's not a pain point that people can see right now, because the whole inflationary aspect of fiat currency is a almost like when you put the frog in the boiling water,
Hmm.
and you just slowly continue to turn it up. That's what they're doing to us, man. Do you think because of that we're not seeing the type of separation from state and crypto like I thought we would? Like I thought we would see by now. When I got into crypto, it was straight libertarian type of movement, a little bit of anarchy too. That camp was there too. We didn't want the banks. We didn't care to assimilate with the banks. We're far from that today, man. Kind of give me your thoughts on the state of crypto today. Are we going in the right direction?
I believe we are. We're just fighting an incredibly powerful monster. If you read the Jekyll, the creature from Jekyll Island from G. Edward Griffin, it kind of
Yeah, I did
talks
read
about the
that one.
Federal Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
But we're fighting against the central banking system. And so in 2008, this group or person known as Satoshi Nakamoto started working on the ideas of what became the Bitcoin white paper, which was introduced Halloween of 2009. Now, after 2008, with the Great Recession that we experienced with the housing market crash and all the things we had going on, the system should have crashed and Bitcoin would have been the answer. But what happened, instead of the system just crashing, was entities like the Federal Reserve started doing what they called quantitative easing, which was printing up more money. And they printed up more money to try to get out of the problem when all it really did was put the 2008 financial situation on life support, just kind of prolonging what was ultimately going to come. So here we are today, and we got continued bailouts happening in the form of capital injections in our repo market, which should say something to most people, but the media is not necessarily reporting this the way that they should be reporting it, and people aren't using their critical thinking like they should be and finding out the truth of what this capital injections in the repo market mean, because it's just another nice crazy way of saying bailout. And that's all that's going on. But now this is all starting to come to a head. You've got the inverted yield curve going on, which if some people aren't really aware of what the inverted yield curve is, people invest money in the United States in the form of US Treasury bonds. And the Treasury bonds give a certain yield on a return for your investment into the US Treasury bonds. And some of them are 1 year, 2 year, 10 year, 20 years. Well, when you have your 2 year Treasury bond yielding the same amount, if not more than a 10 year, which means that you're earning the same amount of interest, if not more, by lending money by buying Treasury bonds for a 2 year period versus a 10 year period. And the way Treasury bonds should work is the longer that you have a Treasury bond for, then the more of a return you should get. So it should never be in a situation where the 2-year is yielding the same, if not more than a 10-year or a 20-year. And that's where we're at right now. Now, the inverted yield curve took place, and since the capital injection just kind of slightly trying to even out a little bit. But what's happening is you're finding more situations in the central banking system, especially on the back end and the repo markets, because apparently these capital injections aren't working, apparently. So I don't know what the next step is. Today is the 8th, and 2 days is when they're supposed to stop the capital injections, and I don't know what's going to take place. I don't know if they're going to continue doing it or if they're going to have to stop.
It's going to continue. I call it, well, actually, I didn't coin this. I saw this on Zero Hedge, and it's totally correct. They call it POMO, Permanent Open Market Operation.
Right.
You know, they're going to continue, man. There's no way they can stop this without freezing the overnight lending, as you were talking about. The repo market is a like short-term lending window mechanism for banks, guys.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, because banks have to have, at the end of their business, they have to have X amount on their balance sheet.
Right.
And if they don't, then other banks lend to each other. And the problem is now the banks don't want to lend to each other because they realize that everybody's broke.
Right. So why would they stop? Why would stopping in 2 days? How is that like they haven't fixed anything. They just put a Band-Aid on and delayed it to now. Well,
the bad thing is, okay, so if they stop it, that's going to cause issues. And if they continue it, it's going to cause issues.
Right. They're in the corner.
More than likely, they're going to continue it. And then what's going to more than likely take place is something that I've not wanted to see at all. I warned people about it, but I don't want to see it because it's not going to be fun, is when we see hyperinflation. That'll be the next step. If we keep doing these capital injection bailouts like we're doing, keep putting more money into the system, it's just going to keep devaluing the money that's currently out and put us into a hyperinflated stage, which people can look at countries like Zimbabwe as an example of what's in the past and currently, but more so Venezuela. Venezuela is a great example of what's happening that I think is going to happen on a global international level.
So this is where I have to disagree with you on the hyperinflation happening here, is because we're still the most demanded fiat currency in the world. Those hyperinflation events that we're seeing in Venezuela, we're seeing in like you told me, what was it, Zimbabwe? They're still having their issues as well. Other countries, in South America, yes, Argentina. Though the reason why they're going through that is because they're not the central, reserve currency for the world.
Right, but now you also have the situation of the BRICS nations, like Russia, China, India, even some of the Middle Eastern countries that are now fighting against the U.S. dollar. They're calling it de-dollarization.
Yeah, right. And we're de-dollarizing. Yeah, we are, but I think it's going to be a slow.
China and Russia are doing some crazy things, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
They could just flip the switch when it comes down to it. I mean, they have enough power and they're doing enough to compete against the United States, especially with the Chinese selling petro now and having a petro yuan. That's a big deal.
Yeah, the thing is, though, it's, to me, man, Rice, it's just so much more complicated than that, because they're trying to get away from us, but unfortunately they depend on us still so much. That's why they haven't done it yet. It seems like it would be so obvious for them to just pull out and start doing their own, and they're forming these coalitions, and you've got China and Russia, they're doing trade deals and trying to, but it's just so much more complicated than that, because their equity markets depend on the dollar. Dollar flows are still just the number one thing that's holding us up. Now, will hyperinflation come? In my opinion, I don't know. I don't know if hyperinflation will come to the United States anytime soon before we start a whole new currency. We may, you know what I'm saying? There may be a reset before hyperinflation.
Yeah, and that's possible. I mean, I do hear talks about a gold-backed currency, or relating precious metals back and using the treasury to print up money as opposed to the Federal Reserve.
Right.
Which I actually have right here.
Yeah. Let's show
a silver certificate.
Nice.
This is
that's a real dollar right there.
Yeah, this used to be redeemable for silver back in the day. And that's what I think they're going to start hopefully trying to reintroduce back in the United States, to be something like that. And that could help.
Or they may, I don't know if you follow Jim Willie. I've had him on a few times on my channel. Okay, Jim is a brilliant guy. He's down in Costa Rica. He says that we'll have two currencies. So the Scheist dollar will be essentially our internal dollar, right? And then we'll have a new dollar. Maybe it's in the form of crypto. Who knows? A new dollar that is used for import-export.
Right.
To keep it going. I don't, we don't know. It's so complicated. Hyperinflation is a possibility. It could be a reset before then.
And neither one of us are experts. We're just talking about things that interest us and that kind of disturb me. So, I'm not trying to scare anybody, and I'm not trying to be a doomsday person. I try to be a realist, but I appreciate dialogue like this, because
that's right. We got to have these dialogues, and I'm sure, like yourself, I remember when 08 hit, and then I started kind of going down the rabbit hole at that point. I was already in finance and trading and stuff, but I didn't, just because you're in an industry doesn't mean you understand all the mechanisms that create and make that industry, right?
Right.
And so at that point, that's when I really started going down the rabbit hole and learning and educating myself, aside from what TV is showing us, aside from what you may have learned if you went to college, which is a scam. But yeah, man, I think people need to start educating themselves a little bit more. And this is what I was talking about over the weekend in Chicago with a group of people. We had a crypto meetup. They were asking the question, well, how do you get new people into cryptocurrencies? And I explained to them, you have to understand or explain to them what's wrong with the current system.
Yeah.
And so if we start approaching adoption for newbies from that way, we educate them first, then we show them the other side, cryptocurrencies and its possibilities. I think it'll be a healthier environment. I think it'll be a less speculative environment, because right now, man, I feel like personally, just seeing the transition, the crypto community today, most of them really they're still ignorant to the facts of what's really going on the other side. What we're just talking about.
Right,
the economics side. You ask any person, crypto guy out there today, they probably wouldn't be able to have that conversation that we were just having, right, and understanding what's going on the other side. So what are your thoughts about that and the dangers of that? I think a lot of people are just chasing the dollar nowadays.
Yeah, well, that's the unfortunate price that we pay for, freedom and freedom of choice, is that people are allowed to choose how they want to do things. And I don't really want to say anything negative to people that are in it for the profit, but I like to see people that are in it for the change.
Right.
To me, like if I was to profit or become wealthy off of cryptocurrency, that would just be kind of like the icing on the cake, because I've already got the cake.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in it for the change. I'm in it for what this can do to disrupt the systems that we currently have, to make life better for my child, for my grandchildren, for your children, your grandchildren. I want to see a better world for them.
Right.
And that's why I'm in this. And that's why I'm doing all the things that I'm doing. I don't feel like we mentioned earlier, that we're going to see instant results, or maybe even a lot of these things take place in my lifetime. But,
yeah, and that's funny, because that's what Hotep was saying the same thing. Like he doesn't think free markets are going to be something we see in our lifetime. And I said, you know what, I can probably agree with you with that. But like you said, if we start planting the seeds now, those things will grow.
Right, our next Ross Ulbricht might be 10 years old at school right now.
Right.
He might create that free market for the world.
Yeah.
So we don't know who we're inspiring and who we're planting seeds with, and then if somebody else has planted seeds and we're just watering those seeds.
Right. Give me your thoughts about this whole Libra project. This is again something that I think a lot of people are excited about in the crypto space, and it disgusts me, man. They think it's a good thing. They think it brings adoption. Now, there is one argument that I've heard that I can say, okay, I can see your point, that Libra shows the world, the public, what Bitcoin is not. You get what I'm saying? So it kind of shows them a compare and contrast to what the governments can do and pressure and have, meetings on Capitol Hill about. You can't do that with Bitcoin. Right. So give me your thoughts about Libra, good or bad for the community. What do you think the outcome of that is going to be?
I think it's good to bring attention to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, but overall, I think it's bad. And I don't really like a lot of centralized projects. I know that there's a time and a place for centralization, but I don't think that an entity that powerful should have that much control over an individual. And even though I'm for freedom, I don't think something like that is going to allow for as much freedom as people might think. And the other thing that kind of really disgusts me about it, and this is something that I'm trying to do a little bit more research on myself, is all these different digital assets or digital currencies that are calling themselves cryptocurrencies.
Yes.
Okay. If you look at the coin market cap websites, CoinGecko, or all these different websites, I mean, the majority of these coins, not the majority, but there's a lot of coins on there that are not really cryptocurrencies, that are not being mined, that are controlled by centralized entities. And I'm not a big fan of that. I'm a fan of decentralization, especially when it comes to money. I don't think money should be put in a centralized form. So being that Facebook is a centralized entity, I can see the pros of what it can do, and I can see the cons. Now, would I use it versus the US dollar? If it was available to me, I may use it versus the US dollar, depending on if it even gets past that point. Because the governments right now are doing a lot to try to stifle and limit what they're trying to do, if not just cut them off. They're losing investors and partners because it is a centralized company and is dealing with money and is dealing with payment systems. It does compete against the Federal Reserve and the US dollar, and they don't like that. So whereas other countries,
this brings up, I'm sorry to cut you off, because this brings up a good point that I'm going to have my man Rethinking the Dollar on my channel because of this video he did, I think last night. I'll share a link to it.
I like his content.
Okay, so you have seen Rethinking the Dollar. He did one last night that really poses the question about whether or not Bitcoin is, what did he call it? I forgot what he said, but basically was it like that they created to kind of get us, to lure us in. And the reason he says this is because he's like, why are they going after Libra so hard and not Bitcoin? Why didn't they stump Bitcoin out, eliminate that early when they had it on their radar? The CIA knew about it in 2013 and maybe even earlier than that, 2012, but really had it on their radar in 2013, 14. Why haven't governments really stumped out Bitcoin like they're going after Libra? What are your thoughts? I have my answers, but I want to hear what you have to say.
One, I mean, with Libra, it's a centralized organization. There's a head to attack. So there wasn't necessarily an entity you could attack. I mean, if they wanted to spend the CIA or the government wanted to spend the resources to try to 51% attack the network early on, that might have been a possibility, but maybe they didn't look at it as a threat. Maybe they did create it. But here's the cool concept about all of it. And this is the thing that I've come to the realization to about a couple weeks ago. No matter what the governments or somebody who's trying to control us try to do, a lot of this technology is open source. So all we need to do as a community is say, fork you. I'm going to fork it. And we can just keep forking things. As long as the people are on board with the same thing. Let's say the government says, well, Bitcoin, all these dirty Bitcoins that were used in these bad transactions, you can't possess those and use those. So it makes it dirty money. It doesn't have that fungibility that we need in a cryptocurrency. So if that was the case, and then like the government says, well, because these coins are now flagged, they can't be used. We're just going to reject payments using these numbers because
right. Those
that.
coins will be tainted. You wouldn't be able to send them to Coinbase, Kraken, Binance US, etc.
But if we fork it, it solves that problem.
No, and that's my main point that I want to bring up to Mike from Rethinking the Dollar is that it doesn't matter if Putin, Z, whatever my man over in China name is, if alien from Mars created Bitcoin, it's open source. We see the code. We can always fork, as you've stated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my concern is, again, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about just a minute ago, consensus on a ethos level. That's what I want to make sure the crypto community is, we're on the same page from an ethos. Because if we're not, then a fork won't happen because there won't be enough of us that thinks that it is a problem. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So we've got to get to that point where everyone is thinking on the same page and we can say, okay, yeah, this is nonsense. They're trying to taint all the coins that come from dark pools or, you know, so on and so forth. If they don't see a problem with that, if 85% of the people don't see, or not even 80, if 51% of the people don't see a problem with that, then a fork is going to be it's going to be a problem.
It could be an issue, but I mean, if you look at what happened with Bitcoin Cash, I mean, it wasn't like they took half the community with them, but they were still able to build a community and they're still existing as a cryptocurrency. So I mean, you don't necessarily need to have that many people. And as long as the people who are accepting of what you're trying to do, here's the thing, we're going to get to a point where money, like as we know it, fiat money is not going to exist. And we're going to price things in terms of Bitcoin or other different cryptocurrencies, not in US dollar terms, which is going to be another interesting thing. So when people are trading goods and services for a cryptocurrency, as long as we as a group agree to give this value, then it has value. And then all that needs to be done beyond that point, you don't even need exchanges to create liquidity because people would use the actual cryptocurrency. They wouldn't just be hodling them. So it kind of takes the game into a different direction, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you on that. What are your thoughts about Bitcoin actually being used as a currency? Is it a currency to you? Is it a digital form of gold? What are your thoughts about that whole debate that's been going around? I'm in the camp, and you know, I know a brilliant guy, Max Kaiser. I had him in my city about a month and a half ago. He thinks the same thing. A lot of smart people are finally coming around to realize that Bitcoin is more so a digital asset, not a currency that we would use day to day.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts though?
I'm kind of mixed on it because you know, I mean, the white paper says a peer-to-peer cash system, so I understand Max Kaiser's view. I believe that Bitcoin can be a store of value and a currency. I don't see any reason why it can't be. It's just, and this is going to go into something crazy, and this is actually going to kind of go into something that I've gotten involved into recently. I really feel, after doing a lot of research, that Bitcoin itself, Bitcoin Core, has been purposely limited.
Yep.
And throttled.
Yep.
So therefore,
I'm with you.
A lot of what people like Max Kaiser and Peter McCormick want to say as Bitcoin maximalists, I can't 100% agree with. The idea of Bitcoin, I love. This Bitcoin that Bitcoin Core is representing as Bitcoin, I'm not sure if it's really what was intended to be Bitcoin.
It's not.
So to kind of go in on that, and I want to speak freely. I'm not trying to trash and talk anybody, but I feel like
that's what we do.
I feel like a company like Blockstream has done a lot to limit Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I'll use an example of Liquid and Lightning Network as examples. And Lightning Network in particular, because if you look at the people who have invested into Lightning Network, it's all the old system.
Yep.
So your MasterCards, your central banks, and all that kind of stuff.
People don't, man. You're doing your research, man. You're right. You're spot on. And people don't. And that's what. But this is what I'm saying, though, right? People don't. They're not looking. They're all about the money, man. And so they're letting it's being hijacked.
People got to be true to this. I mean, as long as some of us are still being true to this thing, man, then we can get these messages out to other people and start waking other people up. You know, as my channel and your channel continue to grow, our voice is going to have more weight. And people are going to listen to what we're saying, especially if we're coming at this with integrity, not wearing the suit and ties and playing the game and doing what everybody else is doing. That's where I've gained a lot of respect for somebody like Roger Ver. I'm not going to say Bitcoin Cash is the true Bitcoin, but I'm saying I've gained a lot of respect for him because he's taken a lot of crap from the community, a lot of slack.
And he keeps going.
And a lot of it, though, I feel like is a company like Blockstream who likes to pay people to make fun of people in the industry and to make it sound like it's silly. So Blockstream, they have investors that invest in Blockstream, and that again is even deeper than probably the Lightning Network as far as some of the investors. And you can look into this. But so the Lightning Network is a good example. Like I said, it was the people who backed it. The Lightning Network was created as a second layer solution for micropayments for Bitcoin. So it should technically be a feature for the Bitcoin blockchain. But right now it's not a feature, it's a dependency. Because I can't buy coffee, I can buy coffee using Bitcoin on the Bitcoin on chain, but the transaction fee is going to cost more than it should cost based off the Bitcoin white paper. So I'm forced to use something like the Lightning Network if I don't want to pay an outrageous transaction fee. So therefore it's not a feature, it's a dependency. And I believe the Satoshi wanted scaling to take place on chain and off chain. So I've actually involved myself with a cryptocurrency that's existed since 2013 by the name of Goldcoin. And when Goldcoin originally came out, their idea, just like everybody else, was to complete and restore Satoshi Nakamoto's vision of the Bitcoin white paper. Well, Goldcoin is actually creating what could be called Bitcoin full scale. And it's a reverse Bitcoin hard fork. So instead of doing just another hard fork and just being just like all the other hard forks of Bitcoin, saying that they're the true vision of Satoshi, what Goldcoin is doing is a reverse hard fork, merging the two blockchains together and creating a new blockchain, but at the same time, reclaiming the Genesis block, because the Goldcoin community and developers, and they've got a really awesome team of developers, one of which is a guy named Peter Bushmill, who's the creator of Feathercoin. So these are some OGs.
Oh, I remember Feathercoin.
These are OGs. These are OGs, man.
I used to have Feathercoin.
So they're actually creating what could be called Bitcoin full scale, but instead of calling it Bitcoin full scale, they're rebranding it as Goldcoin because the Bitcoin name has been tainted, divided, and all this. So instead of just taking it and being another Bitcoin fork, we're upgrading the Bitcoin network to full scalability it can have, which allows for on-chain and off-chain scalability. It even has SegWit so people can use the Lightning Network. It's going to have 32 megabyte
What's
blocks.
the ticker? Is it gold?
It was GLD, but with the reverse hard fork, it's going to be GLC. So you can look it up on CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko as GLC. Where the coin just got delisted from Bittrex because of this reverse Bitcoin hard fork.
Yeah, of course.
They don't like this idea of allowing for full scalability. I mean, this kind of takes, in a way, all the good things of Bitcoin, all the good things of Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, Litecoin, and kind of rolls them all into one. Kind of taking the freedom aspect and putting it back into the regular hand, the people are regular people.
Yeah, no, this is crazy. I'm looking at the site now. You guys can probably see it on my screen. Goldcoin.org.
I mean, yeah, it's in existence since 2013. So a lot of people were asking, well, why are you guys doing this and not doing this with an established cryptocurrency? And I'm like, well, in all actuality, Goldcoin is a lot older than a lot of other cryptocurrencies that are out today. Litecoin is older. Feathercoin was a predecessor. But you know, a lot of these coins are just kind of like just fell through the wayside, you know. But there's a lot of developers. I'll give you an example. Bitcoin Core has stifled Bitcoin so much that when Vitalik Buterin proposed the idea of smart contracts and basically what Ethereum is doing on the Bitcoin network, they laughed at him.
Yep.
And he creates Ethereum.
Yep.
So I really feel like the Bitcoin core group,
Bitcoin has definitely been hijacked.
This hurts my feelings a lot of what I'm about to tell you. I sent some information to Jimmy Song. I thought, not that I'm like great friends with Jimmy, but I got a little bit of a repertoire with him. And when I asked him just to kind of look over this white paper for Goldcoin and give me his thoughts and feelings on the reverse Bitcoin hard fork and the full scalability, he just quickly dismissed it, said he didn't have time to read it, wasn't worth his time to read another shitcoin claiming to be better than Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, Bitcoin does have the network effect. It has that. It has a critical mass, and it has the brand. So it is going to be very difficult for any coin to usurp Bitcoin.
I agree.
But Bitcoin can be what it is. You know, you see Wall Street adopting it, you know, financialization products, financial engineered products on Wall Street now with Bitcoin. And I see where it's going, bro. It's going to a space where it's just going to be another speculative asset.
But but Satoshi Nakamoto's vision, what that group or person wanted to create with the idea of the Bitcoin white paper, that needs to be created. That needs to be out. That needs to be available for the people.
Yeah, and there are a lot of coins that are doing that, I think, out there. But it doesn't matter. You can have a better technology, but if you don't have the brand recognition behind it, it's going to be very hard. But at the same time, this is why I love blockchain. As you stated, it's open source. You can be 1,000 people that use Goldcoin. It doesn't matter. Those 1,000 people are outside of the throes of Wall Street.
Right.
So it doesn't, I mean, so you can have all these fractions, you know, these segmented groups that are, you know, having their own coin, doing their own thing. And then we just, again, like you said, we price against each other instead of US dollar at some point. And that'll happen. That's the beautiful thing. I think that's why I still have hope for cryptocurrencies, because they can't ring fence us in this system.
And I don't want to pigeon myself as a maximalist in any capacity of any coin.
I'm not a maximalist either. No.
I mean, we should be open-minded enough to embrace future technologies that could possibly be a better suited fit for what we're looking for.
Yeah, and absolutely. But you know, the maximalists, though, I think are many of them, I think, don't realize that Bitcoin has been hijacked. Honestly, they don't see the intricate details of Blockstream and, you know,
or they don't care.
Or they don't care.
Because a lot of those people, I think, too, had acquired a decent amount of wealth in the early days of Bitcoin. And I was having this conversation with somebody else the other day. Once all these, it's the same thing with rappers, you know, who like get a record deal. You know, once they get some money and stuff like that, and they start living a better life, it's hard to rap about the streets.
Absolutely.
So, you know, like these OGs who used to be libertarian anarchists who got a little bit of money in their pockets started getting comfortable again. And now all of a sudden they just join the other side. It's kind of the paradigm of Star Wars. We become that which we hate.
Yep, absolutely. And what I'm recognizing, man, is that we try to come up with all these new technologies that's going to make things equitable and fair in society. And those same solutions end up becoming corrupt. Guess what's the common denominator is? It's us, it's humans.
Yeah.
We're the problem. You know, we can come up with all types of solutions, but I think eventually they become corrupt. But again, that's the great thing about blockchain, about this technology. We can never be ring fenced again. You know, the powers that be can never ring fence us in, and that's a beautiful thing. And we'll just move forward and adapt that way. People definitely out there, go research Bitcoin, Blockstream more so in particular, Lightning Network, who's behind it, their initiative and what they're trying to push, because essentially they're trying to have Bitcoin be, well, the Lightning Network just almost be like the central banks, the private central banks, where all the money run through these hubs.
It's a centralized payment system that allows for monitoring of the decentralized payments a little bit easier.
A little bit easier, right? Exactly. So you're gonna have these people with big money open these big channels, because you gotta have millions to have a decent payment channel open, right? Is it still? I know they've been kind of tweaking it, and I don't.
I haven't. I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I don't even really care that much about it, because I know the why it's been created and the bad purpose it represents. So I haven't really done a lot of research about what it requires to run a Lightning node or anything like that. I don't even try to accept any Lightning payments for anybody at all. I don't even really want to learn about the Lightning Network.
How long have you been in crypto, Rice?
Since early 2017.
Okay. You got an OG vibe though with the whole. You really grab the whole.
I went down the rabbit hole hard, dude.
Okay, yeah, no, that's dope, man.
I got some really good teachers, some good mentors, some people that have schooled me in the right way, because I feel like these people who are passing their knowledge on to me feel like I have a role to play in this. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's a coming revolution, and I'm trying to wake the revolutionists up. I don't care about those greedy people who are in this for profit. I care about the people who are in this for change, who are willing to risk pretty much life and limb to see something like this take place. And I really feel like a true revolution is coming.
Yeah, no, I feel you, man, and I appreciate people like you and having conversations with people like you about these topics.
And likewise.
Yeah, man. So, any last thoughts? What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to seeing yourself in Las Vegas for World CryptoCon.
Oh yeah.
Or Las Vegas Blockchain Week. That is going to be off the hook.
That was the first I met you. The first time was last year.
Yep.
And that was great catching up and meeting you in person. So yeah, do you think those types of conferences are really what do you think they're doing for the community?
Well, okay, I'm gonna first talk about the New York Blockchain Week and Consensus.
Okay, all right.
That's kind of your Blockstream suit and tie old system Blockchain Week. I feel like what Evolve and World Crypto Conference have created with Vegas Blockchain Week is something that's much more personable for people. I can't say what we're going to get out of it, because this is their second year, and the first year they got off to kind of a little bit of a rough start. It was a good conference.
It was a good conference, though. I didn't know it was the first time. That was the first time he'd ever done a conference, so that was pretty impressive.
So they start off with a 3-day event last year, and then this year they've got it expanded out from October 26th till 31st of October. So for 5 days, and it's like 15, 16, 17 different events. I know Coin Agenda takes place. There's a Litecoin summit. There's an EOS Alliance summit. I even heard something about a Bitcoin event, but I'm not sure if that's taking place or not. Charlie Shrim is going to be hosting a Crypto IQ trading event. Then you've got all the different, like, there's a big meetup that Crypto Windio and Aaron Nakamoto are going to be putting on. There's, along with the regular conference stuff, there's a bunch of after party stuff and a bunch of after events, like the Crypto Poker is going to be taking place at Mike Tyson's mansion. Mm-hmm. And then there's going to be like some sort of Bitcoin golfing event. And I know it's going to end with the Crypto Halloween, the Cryptoween party. And it was announced the beginning of last week, I think it was, that Cardi B is going to be performing. She's going to be...
all I know, they better let my man Ken Bozak in this year. Because...
dress code thing.
How do you have a Halloween party for Ken?
I love Ken, but he don't even carry around an ID, so he can't even get in half the bars he goes into anymore. Now that's a true anarchist in my mentality.
He doesn't carry. He's
a lot of times. I guess when he travels, he is. But when he went up to Philly, we actually went to a bar for a mutual friend of ours had passed away, and they were doing a celebration of his life while a couple of us were in town.
Yeah, I heard, I know that guy. That I don't know him, but I
James
saw Ken.
Felty.
Yeah.
Yeah, good dude. And but we went to go to the celebration, and Kent didn't have his ID, and even though he wasn't going to drink or anything like that, the people who own the bar wouldn't even allow him to come inside.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I've been with him so many times where he gets rejected because of his dress code or not having an ID, which I respect him. I really do. And I don't go into the events if he does. If I'm with him, because usually that's how we roll.
Yeah, I didn't go. I didn't go into the event. Yeah, I didn't go to it because they didn't let him in. I'm like, no. I mean, the whole point was for him. So.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so it's Vegas, and I know that when he went to it's a strip club. I think it was the Crazy Horse at the Bellagio.
Mm-hmm.
He went in just like he normally goes, like how he goes, and they have a strict dress code.
Yep.
But they allowed him in because of who he was and what he was doing there.
Wow.
So I don't think that Vegas is going to create. I'm hoping that this is not going to be an issue, but I'm not even sure if Ken really wants to go see Cardi B or not. I'm kind of like, if everybody else wants to go, I might just slide in to see like what's up, but I'm not a Cardi B fan at all.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. So great having you on. As always, the conversation is spot on, authentic, and that's what I love doing. That's how I love having these kicking it sessions. So we're definitely going to have you on again, right?
Thanks, dude. Because I feel like our dialogue is just on point. Yep. We obviously don't agree on everything 100%, but we can have a great conversation like we've done today.
No, I'd rather us not. I don't like really talking to people that I agree with.
Right.
I can't grow from that. If we're in an echo chamber, who's growing?
I love it, dude.
So it's your boy Crypto Blood, and that's another kicking it session with my man Rice Crypto. His song pick was Wu-Tang Cream. We out of here, people. Holla.